might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
The Film Lounge presents...
Spoiler-free movie review!
First you gotta do the truffle shuffle. Come on!
with Chris Gooch.
I'm the dude. We're the patsies, the cover-up. Don't forget, we're the bad guys.
What?
You're going somewhere very bad to do something that'll get you killed.
So was that like a pep talk?
Now, whether you loved or hated Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, and let's face it, that seems to be the only two emotions people have towards that film, there is no denying that the film didn't land the way that Warner Brothers had hoped when they launched their DC cinematic universe. However, with a really strong promotional push, it seemed like David Ayer's Suicide Squad was set to put the DC cinematic universe back on course.
I want to assemble a task force of the most dangerous people on the planet. They're bad guys, worst of the worst.
The story is essentially the Dirty Dozen crossed with Escape from New York, where a ragtag group of mostly Batman's rogue gallery need to suit up and do the jobs that the heroes can't. There's no denying that that sounds like an awesome premise for a movie, and there's lots of fun moments and cool sequences. It just doesn't work as well as it should. The pacing, along with the tone, is all over the place, and is never truly even or balanced at any point. We have a hard 30-minute slog at the beginning where the film dedicates its time to establishing origin stories. Lots and lots of origin stories. Sure, it tries to jazz these up with visuals and editing, but it's still very draining at the start of the movie. We get lots of time devoted to establishing Will Smith's Deadshot and Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. However, many of the other characters suffer because of this. Jay Hernandez gets some nice development at times. However, there are clearly some characters that this film just doesn't give a shit about. Don't know who they are? Don't worry, you'll know them when you see them.
You wanna see something? You wanna see something? Yes!
That's gangster.
David Ayer, the man behind Fury, End of Watch, and a critically underrated Sabotage, makes some good choices with some visual tricks with the character of Enchantress, and certainly has some good visual moments for most of the characters. This, unfortunately, is just undercut by some poor editing choices that fail to help to establish a context. Often the context for things that are happening in the story seem to have been left on the cutting room floor, as can be noted by a lot of key scenes missing from the trailers.
We're going to the swirling ring of trash in the sky.
They walk in the park.
Easy peasy.
Don't make me shoot you.
With 4 stellar trailers, over 20 TV spots, a dozen featurettes, and another dozen clips for the film released before Suicide Squad even hit the cinemas, one thing that the film should be credited for is not releasing any major spoiler footage from the third act. Unfortunately, there's a reason for that. The finale doesn't have any big twists, no real significant sacrifices, and no investment beyond the superficial. So the truth is, there isn't really anything to spoil in the final act. So, let's talk about Jared Leto's Joker.
Oh, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
Since the beginning, I've never been totally sold on the design of this new Joker. It looks like Marilyn Manson fucked Ali G, they had a baby and then fed that baby crystal meth until the baby grew up and allowed itself to be painted by a hyperactive toddler high on a Krispy Kreme binge session. Jared Leto is clearly giving it his all, but he seems to be stuck between doing an impression of Heath Ledger's Joker and Jim Carrey's The Riddler. It's an interesting and ambitious take on the Joker. Unfortunately, it's just not quite there yet. It's not as memorable as Nicholson or Ledger's, but that doesn't mean there isn't potential. The character is brutal and sadistic throughout his scenes in the film, but hardcore fans of the Joker-Harley Quinn relationship will note that their storyline in this film completely goes against the core of what makes that duo such an engaging partnership.
What?
The film has a wide array of great songs scattershot across the entire movie, which should be really awesome, if these songs hadn't been used 100 other times in 100 other films. Sometimes it almost feels like the film is afraid to let the audience experience silence, so they just panic and throw a generic rock song up on screen in hopes that it will stick, or at least distract. Overall, the film has some good and some bad to it. The tone is muddled as it's trying to be too many things all at once. Funny, yet serious. Colourful, yet dark. Never quite striking that correct balance. It's not as bad as Batman vs Superman, but also, it's not the course correction that Warner Brothers may have been hoping for. Suicide Squad gets 2.5 out of 5 stars. Or 2.5 out of 5 meth-fueled love childs of an androgynous rock star and a pimp-inspired stereotype.
What you having?
Beer.
Whiskey.
What am I, 12?
How about you, hot stuff?
Water.
That's a good idea, honey.